Hello and welcome back. In our previous videos, we talked about how OBD2 modes let you read data and understand what's happening inside your vehicle. But what if you could go a step further? What if your scan tool could actually ask the car to do something? That's where Mode 8 comes in. It shows you which identification number is supported by this vehicle, lets you request specific system tests or actions, and if the conditions are proper, the ECU will carry them out. Let's dive in and see how it works. So, what's Mode 8? For example, you might request an EVAP leak check on a gasoline engine, or trigger a DPF regeneration on a diesel vehicle. The scan tool sends the request, and if you are in the conditions to run the test, the ECU will then perform the test. Keep in mind, EVAP leak tests are typically supported on gasoline vehicles because they have evaporative emission systems. Diesel vehicles, on the other hand, do not include EVAP systems, but often support tests like DPF regeneration. Mode 8 is particularly useful for service bay diagnostics, like triggering an EVAP leak test under controlled conditions. It helps verify whether a recent repair has truly resolved the issue, especially when dealing with intermittent or hard-to-detect problems. Mode 8 works by sending a request from your scan tool to the vehicle's ECU. You choose a specific test like EVAP leak check or DPF regeneration, and the tool sends that command using a test ID. However, the availability of these tests depends entirely on what the vehicle manufacturer has enabled in the ECU. Not all systems will support every test. The ECU receives the request, checks if the engine is in the proper conditions, and only then decides whether to perform the test. If all the required conditions are met, the ECU will proceed with the test. If not, the ECU may either stay silent or return a negative response. So instead of forcing anything, Mode 8 requests the vehicle to conduct a test if it's safe and able to do so. When using Mode 8, the response data is surprisingly simple. It's all about confirmation. Unlike other modes that give you a flood of sensor values, Mode 8 tells you clearly whether a test request was accepted or rejected. For example, if you're working with a gasoline vehicle, you might request an EVAP leak test. Once the request is accepted, you'll see a response like, "Test request was successful." These messages are not merely basic notifications. They serve as formal confirmations from the ECU that the requested operation has been received and executed successfully. For some systems, you might even see a progress percentage if the test takes longer. And that's a wrap on Mode 8. While rarely used in modern diagnostic routines, it remains a part of the OBD2 specification and can offer helpful control options for specific use cases. Instead of just reading numbers, you're now able to send commands, request real-time tests, and directly interact with your vehicle's systems. It's a great tool to confirm repairs, trigger component tests, and take your diagnostics to a more advanced level. Drive safely, stay informed, and thanks for tuning in.